All right, we are going to get started, everyone. Thank you for your patience. I think I figured out the problem here with my Google Hangouts on air was not enabled, and I was able to figure out how to enable it in the settings. So I'm here. Thank you all for your patience and waiting. I hope we can figure all this tech out, or at least I can figure all this tech out for a decent presentation for you this morning. So if you are here, then you are a specialist for the California Better Together Teacher Summit, and we are so excited and glad to have you here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to share my screen and go through a presentation. Hopefully you're going to be able to see it. If you have questions, go ahead and use the Q&A on the Google Hangout, and I will try and answer them. You can also tweet me or email me, and I'll show that in my Twitter in just a minute for those of you that don't know it. So let's see if we can get this shared with you. And here we go. So today we're going to go over, actually, let me go through that. There is my Twitter account and my email if you need that. Hopefully you can see that. If you are not seeing that, would somebody please let me know? And apologies, I'm also in my classroom today, and I've got the door locked, but typically I get a lot of people coming in and out. So if there's a pause, it means there's somebody has come in and out in my room. So just be patient with me. So that being said, I'm going to hold on just for a second so people can tweet me something. So give me just a second. So it looks like people can see it. If not, this is going to be recorded. Hopefully we're going to get things figured out. If you're having technical difficulties or trouble like I did, just don't worry about it. You can always call me or contact me, and I will help you with whatever you need help with. So, and the slides are going to be posted. All the slides that I'm sharing are going to be posted to that scope of work document, which is kind of our parking lot. So anything you need, just go to that document, and you should have everything that you need there. So today we're going to go over the Better Together schedule and the scope of sequence for the sequence for the day, so you kind of understand the flow of the day. We're going to talk about the review of and talk about and review the introduction to Edcamp that you're going to be doing. And you're also going to get some information about the session boards, which I still have some questions on from the New Teacher Center. So I'm waiting to hear back from them, and I'll let you know the answers when I find out. We're going to talk about using the facilitators, the other volunteers that are going to be helping for the summit. I'm starting a remind group so that I can send out texts and stuff with information, mainly for communication the day of the event. And then if you have questions, hopefully we can get your questions answered today. If not, then anytime you need help, we can talk about that. So let's start with what the day is going to look like. So this is a copy of the day. And as you can see, it's from about 8 o'clock to 3 o'clock. And there is a registration breakfast room, and I've kind of tried to delineate for you where your work is going to be, the main parts of your work for the day of the event. And that first hour where people are registering and they're coming in and sitting at tables or sitting in the auditorium, and it's really going to be different for every site. So communication with your site leaders is really important. And so anything that I say that is different from what you've heard from your site, you kind of go with what your site is doing. And if you have questions or you're confused, you can always talk to me. And I'm kind of if you're feeling overwhelmed or you're feeling like your site's not communicating with you, please come and let me know, or call me or email me, because I'm here to help you make sure that you're able to do your work without feeling overwhelmed and overloaded. And I'd be happy to help anybody with the work that they need. So that registration part is really an important part, time for you to work the room and kind of rotate around the tables and give a little brief introduction to Edcamp and kind of talk to people and see who knows what Edcamp is, and start getting session ideas written on sticky notes and up on your session idea board. And we're going to talk a little bit more about that later, but use that beginning hour of registration time to start getting your session board going. Then we're going to look at then there'll be an introduction from the site leaders. There'll be the opening keynote, and then the first local Ed Talk speaker. So that time is really time that you can kind of use to start putting the board together, getting session ideas. And then at 10 o'clock is when you're going to do the Edcamp overview for the attendees that are going to be at the summit. So and then everything you need for that overview, I'm going to provide to you. So if you can wait just a minute, because we're going to talk about that, you'll get a little bit more information about the Edcamp overview. And then it's time to break into the sessions. So you'll see that there are 3 sessions, 2 before lunch and 1 after lunch. And then after 1:30, the Edcamp portion of the day is done. So you're done at 1:30 after that last session. So it's a very manageable day, I hope. And I hope you're able to feel comfortable going into that day with your role in your job. So a couple things about the schedule is, one is you'll see that there are 45 minutes allotted for each session. However, you need to figure out how far away your session rooms are from the main meeting room to give people time to travel in between the sessions. So, and you want to make sure your site knows this, and you want to make sure that your attendees know this, so that if you've got if we go back to that schedule, if you've got from 10:30 to 11:15, for example, for your first session, you really want that first session to stop 5 minutes or 10 minutes earlier than what's posted. So just make sure that your attendees know that, and that your site leaders know that. And just as a side note, all of the site leaders are also getting this same presentation and the same information. So everybody hopefully will be on the same page. So you've got, and then if you can, familiarize yourself with the site. That's really helpful. Even if the morning of the event is the first time you're going to actually be on site, just try and talk with somebody and figure out where the session rooms are going to be, where are the restrooms, things like that, so that you can help other attendees know where to go once it's time to move into those sessions. And it helps that you kind of get a lay of the land for yourself. So the introduction to the Edcamp, that will happen at 10 o'clock on the day of the event. And so you are going to introduce attendees to the Edcamp process. I know I'm doing presentation no notes here. I'm just reading the slides to you, but that's okay. We want that introduction to be pretty brief. So the slides I've shared with you, you should be able to go through those slides in 5 to 10 minutes. And they're actually going to be in that, the slides are going to be in that scope of work document. And you're just going to be able to click on it and open it in your Google Drive. Those slides are for you to use however you want for your introduction. So if you are talking to your site and you need to take out some of the slides, or you need to change some of the slides, or you want to add new slides, whatever you want to do, please feel free to edit and revise anything you want in those slides. It was just my way of giving you something that you can use. And if you do nothing and just go through the slides, people will get a good understanding of what Edcamp is and how they're going to play a part in it for the day. And if they don't, then if you don't want to use those slides and you have something totally different that you're going to do, that's fine too. We just want to give people an idea of what Edcamp is. And if they went to the summit last year, they'll have a kind of an idea of what it is. And if they've never been to one, we want to make sure everybody's kind of on the same page. Just make sure you make a copy of the document before you start changing it, because I'm going to give you rights to that document. So I want to make sure that our original stays the same. There's also speaker notes in there if you want to use those or add to them or change them. They're really, it's just there for you to use. Those slides are also going to be shared with the site ahead of time, so they kind of know what you're going to say during your introduction. And then once you've finalized the slides that you're going to use, whether it's the document as is or if you make changes and edits, you want to make sure that your site leaders have access to that ahead of time. That way they can get their tech people to queue up the slides for you, and you don't have to do any of that the day of the event, and it can all be handled ahead of time, and it just makes for a nice smooth morning. So hopefully you'll find those slides helpful as you're working and looking at how you're going to introduce Edcamp to the attendees. So next we're going to talk about creating the session boards, and this is where things get a little bit different because every site I think is probably going to be a little different depending on the size of the site. So if I'm going to give you some ideas and your site already has a plan for how they're going to create the session board or how they're going to post the session boards, that's totally fine. Again, it's do what works for you. I just want to make sure that you feel comfortable and that you feel prepared to create the session board. So some notes about the session board that I want to make sure everybody knows is that everybody will get a $50 material fee, so that if you need to buy index cards or sticky notes, or you want to buy markers to set out at tables, or you want to buy big giant sticky posters, or you need masking, different colors of masking tape, I want you to be able to buy those materials to use during the day. So please make sure you use that materials fee to get anything that you need. If you feel that you're going to need more of it, especially if you're at a larger site, then more money, please let me know and I'll make sure that you get what you need. Your site may offer to get the materials that you need. You kind of talk with your site leaders and figure those things out for yourself. One of the ideas I heard that I'm trying to confirm and I haven't heard back yet from the New Teacher Center is if the sites are going to have a Google form that attendees can fill out with session ideas to help you create the board ahead of time. So that may be an option. During that morning meeting, as I said, as people are sitting and registering and waiting for the first introduction keynote, use that time to work the room. And that's a great time to use the facilitators, those other volunteers that are going to be at the site to help you out. Use them to do the same thing. And I'll talk a little bit more about the facilitators coming up. I found it's really helpful to have a parking lot poster or posters maybe around the room. So as people are jotting down ideas on a sticky note or however you're going to do it, they can go and just stick them on that poster, or your facilitators can pick them up from people as they're working the room and put them on the posters. That way that kind of frees you up to take and start creating the board from those ideas. I know each site also wants a digital board, and this is going to be another thing I'm going to have to clarify with you a little bit later as I hear. So a digital board, I'm going to show you just an example of what it might look like. This is not going to be exactly, but you'll get the idea. Is just really just a Google Doc that can be shared out with the 3 sessions on one axis and the breakout rooms. They say group on the sample picture, but the breakout rooms going across the other axis. And so that way you can, as you start getting your board filled out, then you can start inputting what the sessions are going to be. And then hopefully we're going to be able to create shared Google Docs that people can take notes on for the sessions. So if you are creating the session boards, then you can start filling those in as you know the sessions. And that's a really good idea, is as you're working the room in the morning, once you have enough ideas or sessions to fill your rooms, and the number of rooms, again, will depend on the number of people that are attending your site. So again, you have to talk with your site leaders and prepare for the number of rooms that they've set aside. And it's better to have all the rooms on the document than not use them than to not have them and try and add columns and rows to your document the morning of the event. It's better just to have it on and maybe have some blanks in there if you don't need all the rooms that are set aside. But as you're working the room during the networking part, that kind of breakfast sit down and everybody's getting ready for the keynote part, once you've got that first session or even the second session, if you've got enough ideas, start creating your sessions and posting them to that doc. That way you can get everybody into their first session and then keep working on the second and third sessions if you need to. So use your facilitators to help you with that board and kind of create it as you go and start grouping things as you go. And the great thing this year is because they've added a third session instead of just 2 from last year, if there are lots of people interested in one topic, you can actually have 2 sessions of that same topic. So if people can't go to one, they can go to maybe a second one. So that's something to think about. All right. And then I'm going to, at the end, if there are questions, I'll go through the Q&A and look at the questions and try and get them answered for you. And then I'll also check my email and Twitter before we end the Hangout. So the facilitators. Okay, so this is something I think they're a little more on the ball with this year. Last year, I went into the event and I was a specialist last year, and I didn't have any idea there were going to be facilitators, and I kind of stumbled a little bit in knowing what to do with them and how to use them. So I'm really glad that they're getting some training going for the facilitators. A lot of sites are having a facilitator training, or they've already worked it out and have already done some of that training. So if you want to use the facilitators, or I shouldn't say if you want to use the facilitators, if you are not able to attend any trainings that a site may be having, I think most of them are having a kind of a meetup the day before the event, you are not required to go to that meeting. If you can and you want to, feel free to, but you are not required to. My site was 4 hours away last year and I was not able to go. So it was not until the morning of the event that I was able to get there. But it's good to meet with the facilitators before the event, even if it's that morning, and kind of do a little powwow with them that morning. Talk to them about their roles for the day, and they really can serve 2 roles. They can help you work the room to create the session board, and that was going to be really important at our larger sites, is having those extra hands helping you gather ideas from participants and create the board with them. And then also using them in the sessions, and that's kind of what each site has been training for. And I'm creating a presentation for the facilitators to help them understand their role in these 2 areas. And then there's also in our scope of work doc, there's some information about how to use facilitators and how they're going to be trained to start the sessions. It's important that facilitators know that when they are helping in sessions, that they are not leading the session, because that kind of defeats the whole purpose of the Edcamp, is that there is no leader. It's just the people in the room having a conversation. And so we want to make sure that they're not going in thinking they need to be in charge of the session. They're really just there to kick things off And if there's a lull in the conversation, maybe you throw out a question or something to the people in the room. So if you want to communicate with your facilitators ahead of time and you feel that you want to talk to them in some way, talk with your site about how you can communicate with them. They will get a video, as I said, that video I'm also going to link in our scope of work doc for you so you can see what facilitators are being told ahead of time. And then also have a plan for how the facilitators will know which session they're going to attend or which session they're going to facilitate during the Edcamp, the 3 Edcamp sessions. So if it's going to be pick and choose or assign each facilitator a room, you can figure that out with your site and with the facilitators themselves. But it's good to have a plan going in so everybody kind of knows their role before the event or before the day of the event. So really, those are your main jobs, is communicating with your event to see what they need, making sure that you have your Edcamp introduction, those slides that I'm going to share with you, ready to go, that you have, if you need to customize them in any way, that you've done so, and then creating the session board with the help of this and holding the sessions with the help of the facilitators. So if you are feeling good about that, then you're ready to go into that Edcamp. I'm going to create or I've already created a remind group for the day of the event, so we can send out if there's messages or something that need to be given out to everybody. Quick message, I can text you. And again, I'm going to go through the slide. You can do it right now or access these slides later. They're going to be in the scope of work document under the resources. But you can text that number and you can text that message, and that will help. And then that will allow you to join that remind group. And then you'll be able to receive texts from from me during the day of the event with any information that I think you need to have. Otherwise, I'll be using email and that scope of work doc to be able to get in touch with you. So, and then anytime that you need something, okay, and if you want help with something, if your site's asking you to do something and you're like, I'm not sure if this is what I'm supposed to be doing, please let me know. I'm here to help you. I'm happy to help anybody with the work that you need to do. Don't hesitate to get in touch. So there's my email, my phone, which you can text or call, and my Twitter. So you can get in touch with me any of those ways. I'm happy and more than willing to help you out. So I'm going to leave that slide up for a minute, and I'm just going to take a look in the Q&A, see if there are any questions that need answering, and check my email. So give me just a second. All right, I see in that Q&A, you guys are awesome. Thank you so much for your help in and the ideas, especially if you were a specialist last year, and I see some people sharing ideas, and feel free to put those ideas in the scope of work doc. There's a parking lot there, because those kinds of things would be great for people to know as far as creating session boards. But there was a question about the facilitators, and will they be the ones that will be primarily taking notes in the sessions? And that's excuse me, one of the things that they can do. But because this is Edcamp and the notes should be shared with everybody, anybody who's in the session should be able to add to those notes. So we want the facilitators there to kind of do some recording if nobody's accessing those notes, but they don't have to be the only ones. We're going to kind of use those facilitators to help them help make sure there's something in those notes. All right, let me check for the other questions. All right, there was another question about access to the documents that you should have. You should have access to the scope of work document and the list of sites, and you should have access to the communication, the contact information for the site leads. All those you should have access to. The slides that I'm sharing with you right now and the slides for the Edcamp introduction, those are going to be put in that scope of work doc as soon as we're done with this Google Hangout. So if you'll see, I put the text there, just I haven't linked it yet. I just wanted to make sure all the slides were accurate. So you will have access to those documents as soon as we're done with the Hangout. And I'm going to check to see if there's any more questions. All right, I see a few more comments about using a bit.ly to create a link to the session board for attendees. That's great. I don't see any other questions. I may be missing it, but if I do see questions that I haven't answered, or you have any other questions, just contact me and I'll put answers in the scope of work document. And if I need to, I'll create another I'll send an email out to everybody with answers. And I'm sure if there's questions that will happen or do arise, contact me. And if it's something I feel everybody needs to know, then we'll make sure that everybody knows that. So I'm going to end here. Thank you all so much for your work. I hope you are able to feel a little bit more comfortable if you are new this year. And I hope you can access those documents, see what's going to work for you. If there's something you're not sure about, please feel free to contact me. Make sure you're in contact with your sites and feeling good about the communication there. And anytime you need help with anything, I'm here for you. So I'm going to stop there. And if you have any questions, let me know. You guys are awesome. I'm looking forward to an awesome event. I appreciate your help, and I know the Edcamp Foundation and the New Teacher Center does as well. Thank you so much. Have a great day.